Hi there, and welcome to the Living with SMA podcast. We're here to have conversations about living with spinal muscular atrophy. Throughout this podcast, we will be covering lots of different topics, from preparing for university, getting the most from your personal budget, sex and relationships, and lots more. So we invite different hosts from across the SMA community to come together here. We want to answer your questions, provide you with useful tips and recommendations, and also share personal stories. So please do reach out and connect with us here at the charity SMA UK. Thank you for listening, and we hope you find the podcast useful.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Living with SMA podcast. My name is Lannon, and I'm going to be your host for today. Now this is actually my first time hosting the SMA podcast, so I hope I don't let anybody down, and I hope you stick around. So we're going to be talking about some interesting subjects today. It's going to be around the topic of employment, and in particular, we're going to be talking about blogging and career opportunities. So before I introduce you to my guest, I'll give you a quick little rundown about myself. So as I said already, my name is Lannon. I'm 28 and I'm from Cornwall, and I have SMA Type 2. And yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell. I run a blog called A Life on Wheels, and I also do some part-time radio presenting. And yeah, that's basically me. So I'm going to hand over now to my guest, which I've written down a couple of bits here because I want to give you a proper good introduction, because Kerry is not only an amazing blogger, she's a good friend of mine. And yeah, I'm hoping she's got a lot of fun stories to share with us today. So I've got written down here. So Kerry is not only, she's an ambassador for Purple Tuesday, she has also been on the Disability Power 100 list 2 years running. And she's also a finalist in this year's National Diversity Awards. So it doesn't really come better than that. Kerry, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Now, I feel like I've kind of maybe ruined your introduction a bit there, but whether you can tell us a little bit more about you. I'm going to go Cilla Black on you. So tell me your name, your age, tell me everything.
So I am 42. At 24, I was diagnosed with a rare form of muscular dystrophy, FHL1 Gene mutation. So, just call me superpowers, obviously. I am a blogger, My Life Kerry's Way. I've been doing that for 6 years roughly now. And that's probably the same amount of time I've been campaigning for disability rights. So I'm probably more known for my work within Changing Places. So I've been very lucky with that campaign. And I've also doing a campaign for better accessible housing. But yeah, and I work part-time for MDUK on the Changing Places. So yeah, that's me. I live with my husband, my fully grown man-child, I like to call him.
Big Dave, we say.
Big Dave, we call him.
We should tell people, like, I class you as a friend, but we've never actually met.
We've never actually physically met.
No, so
we've known each other for many years, but never physically met. How crazy is that?
It is, because we met through the power of social media and blogging. You and yourself, Fee Anderson, Carrie Ames, Emma Muldoon, you sort of created the MD Bloggers crew.
Yeah.
And then for some reason invited me in, and then it all went down the pan.
No, you were great. You brought the extra bit of dynamic that we already had, but we were missing that little bit of, and we love you and we love your cheekiness, and that's it brought a different dynamic to the MD Bloggers crew. And yeah, from that we've all become such amazing friends. And it's funny because I've never met any of you.
No.
And it's I know a few of you have met like together, but I've never physically met. And I think we were going to meet last year or the year before at NADEX, weren't we? But then obviously the big P happened.
Yes.
And destroyed everybody's lives.
Pretty much.
So yeah, we've still never met.
I know. We need to change that, and we will.
Yeah. Definitely.
But obviously the main reason we're here today is because we're talking about disability, we're talking about employment. We'll get onto the blogging stuff a bit later on, I think, but I want to talk about your views and get your opinions as well on disability employment, because I remember growing up, and it's one of those memories that sticks in my head. When I got my very first job, somebody said to me, "Why would you want to work when you could just claim benefits?" And that has always stuck in my head, and it angered me so much. And I'm not taking anything away from anybody who's on benefits at all, but that was just a comment that stuck to me, and if anything motivated me to say, actually, just because I've got a disability, I can still go out and work and, you know, have a fulfilling life and career and whatever. And I want to get your thoughts on that. Have you ever experienced any comments like that?
I haven't, funnily enough. When I stopped working after I was diagnosed, it wasn't long after I was diagnosed, I stopped working. So I worked in the pub trade, so very grueling on your body. It became quite apparent that I was struggling a lot more. I was falling a lot more. And the company I worked for called the company doctor and said, you know, it's probably best you stopped working, solely because they couldn't, you know, if I had a serious accident, there's a chance they might get sued. So I left work. So from that, I didn't do anything for a very long time. And I think I lost my identity from working. So from being able to run a bar to then being in a wheelchair, to then not really knowing what your identity is when it comes to working. So when I went back to work this year, it was very liberating. I always thought that, no, that I'm no good at anything. I've come from the pub trade. There's never going to be a job out there that I'm going to be able to do. There's no way I could do an office job because I would need to take somebody with me because my arms don't work the same way as everybody else's. I would need someone to work a computer for me, possibly. So the idea of going back to work scared me because I didn't think there was anything out there that would be able to cater for my needs. And that's really bad.
Oh, yeah.
That's really bad for me to kind of go from being in my 20s and working and, you know, pretty much an 80-hour-a-week job to then having absolutely nothing, not knowing what was out there to be able to cater for me to go back into work and not just live off of benefits, to then being 42 and saying, I'm employed again.
I'm back on the payroll.
Back on the payroll. I mean, it's part-time, but I love every minute of it. And I love the fact is that they make it work for me. So they do it where I'm able to have a rest if I need to. I'm able to swap and change my days if I need to. I can go into work early. I can leave work early. I can start a little bit later. You know, they have made it very easy for me to come back into the work process. And I just remember that feeling of looking at my bank account and seeing that there was a paycheck in there for the first time in many years. It was, I've earned that. That's money I've earned. And I think everybody should have that. Everybody should have that, regardless of whether you're, you know, non-disabled or disabled. You should have the right to be able to say, look, I earned this. This is what I earned. I went to work. It is easy enough for me to get to work. It is easy for me to do a job. And I think a lot of companies don't realise that we can actually be an asset to them.
Absolutely. And I think that's why it's so important that I was excited to have you on as a guest today, because you've almost experienced that able-bodied life as well as a life with a disability. And like you said, from employment-wise, you've gone from working this maybe like an 80-hour week in the pub to not doing as much, and now you're finding your feet again, no pun intended. But
it's crazy to think that you can lose your identity. I think from, like you say, from being, non-disabled to then being disabled, you do lose your identity. You kind of think, okay, where do I fit in life? And it's crazy because I've been brought up with muscular dystrophy, so I don't know if it's because my mum never really showed that there was a problem in the world. My mum never really sat us down and said, by the way, you're going to have to fight for pretty much everything in your life when if this ever happens to you. So there was always a chance that my brother and myself would have muscular dystrophy. But I think my mum hoped that it wouldn't.
Right.
I mean, it's what parent wants to turn around and say to their child, by the way, I think you're going to get muscular dystrophy at some point in your life. They're not. They're going to live in cuckoo land and say, no, my children are fine. It's going to be okay. And I don't blame my mum for that. I just think because she was told for many years that it couldn't be passed on, that was the case.
Yeah.
So she never really kind of established me in the land of what was going to happen if that did happen. You would struggle to get a job. You would probably struggle to, do anything other than fight for everything. So, yeah, I kind of had to find my feet, I think.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people presume that people with disabilities either don't want to work or they can't work. And that's one of the sort of the stereotypes that I think both yourself and I have worked towards breaking down, because that is absolutely not the case. A lot of people, don't get me wrong, I know some people with disabilities who could easily work and they don't. And I'm not going to call them out now. They know who they are. Yeah, trust me, there's a few down the hall. But yeah, I think for me, getting my very first job was just such a sense of pride. Like, I will never forget, I was at college and it was a part-time job. So I would go to college during the day, and then I worked in this retail shop that was literally across the road from my college. So I'd finish college at like 4:00 on a Monday, and then I had half an hour to get across the road, get into the shop, get changed before my shift would start. And as much as I hated it, I look back on it now and I'm just like, I'm so proud of myself that I did that.
Yeah.
Like, I would literally rush across the road. It was a struggle. Like, I would try and get myself changed in the toilets, get into my uniform, and then I would then work from 4:30 till 8:00 at night. And that was a long day. Yes, at the time.
Do you feel like you kind of have to prove yourself to the fact is, I know I feel that even when it comes down to blogging and some of the work that I do there, I kind of constantly have to feel like when I say to someone, oh yeah, no, I work part-time for MDUK, they're like, oh,
yes.
As if like, are you sure? It's kind of like I have to feel like I prove that I work and that I do want to work. And then you feel like you have to constantly say to people, just because I'm disabled doesn't mean I don't want to work. I have got a brain. I may be blonde and disabled, and there may be no hope that way, but I am very intelligent. Absolutely. It's kind of like, yeah, you have to prove yourself.
You do, and there's a stigma, I think, especially when it comes to, obviously, in the pandemic at the moment, working from home. I mean, I have to explain to my parents, when I do certain bits of paid blog work, they're quite old-fashioned. They don't understand that, you actually can earn money from doing it. I'm like, yes, like I'm working from home. And a lot of people don't understand that when it comes to disability and working from home in particular, you often don't know what's going on behind the scenes, do they?
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, you kind of, I think, my mum's kind of the same. When I say to her, oh, I got this, she's like, oh, did you? How does that work?
And
then you kind of have to explain it. And it's the same with my nan as well, trying to explain to my nan. It's just, sometimes I don't know why I try. She's so interested though. And then she kind of pretends that she knows what you're saying. She's like, oh yeah, no, I understand. You just think you don't understand at all, do you, Nan? Waiting for her to say, no, I don't. But God love her. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people also presume I'm sort of getting a bit ahead of myself here. We're talking about blogging, but a lot of people do presume that it's easy, or it's just, you'll just, pop a post out. And I'll never forget, people make these comments and they stick in your head. Someone saying, oh, I wish I did that. Or they see that maybe you get something gifted to you, or you get paid for something, and they think, oh, that's easy, I can do that. And it's like, hang on a minute, it's taken a lot of time to get to where we are today, to build up that audience and that your website, to make it professional.
Yeah, you don't just wake up one morning and go, right, that's it, this is what I'm going to do. And you post your first picture, and all of a sudden you've got, so much stuff going in. You've got companies coming to you and saying, hey, do you want a job? Do you want this? It's you have to build it up, don't you? And I think that's what it comes to when working, is that because I always had in my head that, me starting my blog, and then I don't think if I hadn't have started my blog and I hadn't have kind of met all of you guys and got the confidence, there's a possibility I never would have worked, ever. If I had been in the same situation 6 years ago, if I hadn't have sat there and pushed that button to say publish, I don't think I'd have been sat here now saying to you, I have a part-time job working for a charity that is very close to my heart, doing something, talking toilets, which is, one of my favourite subjects, we all know.
Toilet
and
queen.
then obviously, you nicknamed me the toilet queen. That seems to have stuck, which is great. I love it. I'm thinking about sticking it on my van. I will have to say, that is the one thing I said the other day. But I don't think that I would have sat there, done a CV. I mean, I had to write my whole CV out. And I sat there and was like, well, that's a very lonely CV. I haven't worked for 20 odd years. What do I say in an interview? How do I do an interview? And I just remember freaking out and just saying, okay, CV's done. Now what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do? And I remember being so nervous.
And what advice would you give to, say someone's watching today and they think, I've been out of work for a long period of time, I've got a disability, where do I start? You've made this transition recently, so what advice would you give?
I think know what it is that you want to do. Know your strengths. My strength is talking toilets, so it was a very easy job for me to go for because it's working in the land of the changing places, which has been part of my life for 6 years. So it made sense to go for that job. So I think if you're going to do that, you need to know what it is that you want to do and go for it. Just, if you don't get it, you don't get it. I mean, our friend, Fee Anderson, she literally went for how many jobs before she got the one she's in now? And, there was times I spoke to her and, she was so deflated and she thought it was her that was the problem. And I said, it's not. It's just because it's not the right job for you. Yeah. There will be a job there that you are capable of doing. And it is that, it's having that confidence. And I think it's giving me more confidence having a job, definitely. Being able to say, I have a part-time job, and this is who I work for. This is what I do. And then people kind of understand that. Yeah. They're kind of like, okay, well, my friends understand it. But when you meet people, obviously you get the, okay, how does that work? So, yeah, just go for it. Go for it. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how many knockbacks you get, take that as experience. put it on the list of experience and just move on to the next one. And when that job comes along that suits you and fits you, you're going to get it. Someone wants you at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love what you said earlier as well about getting that first pay packet. I remember you sending me a photo of these pair of trainers you bought. You were so excited, like, I'm going to spend my first pay packet on these shoes.
Yeah, I kind of went a little bit crazy on my first. I mean, let's face it, shoes for us are shoe ornaments. They're never going to, I call them shoe ornaments. They're always going to be shoe ornaments. They're never going to get dirty. They are never going to, if I wanted to sell these shoes in 2 years' time, they're going to look exactly the same as when they came out of the box the first time. So, you know, I did go a little bit crazy on my first paycheck and maybe bought a very expensive pair of trainers, but I love them.
As you should. And I think in terms of employment for me as well, I've had quite a rocky sort of 18 months solely because of the pandemic, because up until COVID became a thing, I was in a stable job for the last 8 years. And then when the pandemic hit and I went into shielding, it turned my world upside down because, like I said, I had so much pride and I was working in a job where I enjoyed, I built relationships, and I was there for 8 years. It was an office-based admin job, and I worked part-time, and it was a good little earner for me. And then when I went into shielding, obviously that stopped, and I lost a lot of confidence going out and seeing people. That once the shielding ended, I had to make the impossible decision: do I go back to the office and go back to work feeling unsafe? Because this is in a care home, so this is a vulnerable environment where I couldn't work from home. That was never an option. But I had to make the decision to actually quit my job, which, considering what I pride myself on having a job with a disability, that was a real hard thing to sort of go through, really. And I'm still kind of fighting the effects of that because, yes, I haven't gone back to full-time employment. I'm doing bits of freelance stuff. And it's almost like starting again. I'm looking on job websites and I'm trying to find what I think will suit me, which obviously you've gone through recently, as in searching for jobs. It's a weird and wonderful world, but also it can be really exciting. I don't want it to be negative. I feel like this has opened up so many more opportunities now. So it's
what you're saying, when one door closes, another one opens. And I think that's very true. You know, I do think it's very true because, you know, for you, you're having to start again. And, you know, it sucks that, you know, you've lost some independence and you've lost some. It's got to be hard to kind of say, right, okay, I've got to start again, but I know I've got to start again.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at it as more of a challenge. And I think for me, as someone with a physical disability, the main thing about finding a new employment is there's so many things you have to consider in terms of access. So I'm a driver, so I need to drive to somewhere where they've got disabled parking. Once I'm in the building, it needs to be level access. I'm a full-time wheelchair user, so I need a disabled toilet. If I'm on a desk, you know, can my wheelchair get under the desk? There's so many aspects of employment that you have to think about that most people don't have to think about.
Yeah. I mean, I've just gone through the same thing, you know, with working at home and obviously I'm used to the light work and doing laptop work, but going back and doing 5 hours, you know, 2 days a week has been very grueling on my body. And I've had to move from being in my wheelchair to being in a comfy chair, which, you know, still isn't great. But I've gone down the route of the access to work. And I did that. So they've got the Dragon software coming, which will help me work my laptop a lot better. I've got a headset coming. I've got an adjustable table coming. So all of that is through access to work, which, you know, I wasn't aware of before until I started working. And that's the great thing, is that I think those types of things to help us gain that little bit more independence working. Because I definitely felt like I was not being as efficient as I could be.
Okay.
You know, it was taking me pretty much the whole of my shift to do, 30 odd emails, which isn't good because you're having to just constantly type on the keyboard on your laptop, and it's like one letter at a time. And it was becoming, painful for my hand and my arm, and my neck was hurting.
Yes.
So I reached out to my boss and said, I'm struggling. What do I do? And that was when, I had an assessment with Access to Work. And they were very quick. They were very efficient, very quick. Everything's now ordered and waiting to be delivered. So, I'm excited to then become a little bit more efficient than I'm being now.
Absolutely. And I think that's the sign of a good employer, an employer that's going to support you to make these, and we're talking small little adaptations, not asking for the world. Like, these are little changes that are going to benefit you in a big way. And I think it's nice to see that more companies are definitely taking access and inclusion on board. I've definitely seen an improvement. I think both yourself and me, we're both ambassadors for the company called Access Able. And we recently both did a project with Highways England. And it's great that a separate company such as them are looking at improving their accessibility at motorway stations. And they're getting real life experienced people on board to support them. And I think...
And they were very open. They were very much open. I mean, I don't know how, who you had, but, the two girls I had from Welcome Break and from Highways England, they were so open to everything that I had to say. They actually, it felt like they wanted to understand more and they wanted to improve more than what they'd already done. Those access guides, they felt were a great start, but they wanted to do more. And that's kind of how it felt again very liberating that conversations like that about disability and about access and about inclusion, if you're going to have those conversations, then include us.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, this is our life. We live it. We don't just wake up in the morning and go, oh, do you know what? I'm going to take my wheelchair off today. It doesn't work that way, does it? As much as I would love to say that. And again, I think it's the same as people thinking that we're superheroes. I definitely don't wake up in the morning, stick my lycra pants on, clip a cape to my back, and then get in my wheelchair.
Yourself.
I mean, it was good to see that, there are little changes and you can see them happening.
Yes.
It's little things that are happening, but it's a shame that it's taken so long for it to be those little things that possibly should have been a long time ago. But positivity, and the fact is that they are happening.
They are. And I think a lot of that comes down to the representation of disabled people in the media. I know that's something that we've both done, lots of TV, radio, and we're both passionate about. And I think the more we see of disabled people out working and achieving things, the more, I hate using the word, but the more norm it becomes. And I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely. I just think, because when I grew up, obviously being a lot older than you, there was nothing on the TV. I don't ever remember there being anything on the TV that resembled anyone with a disability at all. I don't remember any conversations at school happening with anyone with a disability. My mum was my primary school hockey teacher. She had muscular dystrophy.
Wow.
She was at my school teaching my classmates and me how to play hockey with muscular dystrophy, but yet there was no conversations in school at all, in any of the classes. This is Marion. She has muscular dystrophy. Do you want to ask her any questions?
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that we're not, and I love the fact is that, Barbie have brought out, the fashionista wheelchairs, and you've got Ken now with a wheelchair, and, you've got, my friend sent me a picture of her daughter, has got a big pink wheelchair for her doll. And she said that, her daughter's now asking questions about her granddad's wheelchair. Why's granddad got this? Is this, why's granddad, and it's great to see. Kids are so intuitive, aren't they? They have so many questions, and it's a shame that they can't come to us. Some parents are very standoffish, and I find that quite upsetting. And the fact is, we don't care. Come and speak to us. I will happily sit there and tell your child why my legs don't work. I'll explain it in a way that a child is going to understand. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs where they're going to go, huh?
Yeah.
Wish I never asked that question at 5. But yeah, just it's having those questions that are answered and letting the kids be intuitive and letting them be curious, because kids are always going to be curious.
They are, and it's awareness and it's learning that from a young age that creates a more acceptable and inclusive world when we're
absolutely.
But I think a lot of the opportunities that we're doing now, I think it's safe to say that we wouldn't be doing now if it wasn't for the fact we both started blogs. I think I want to talk about the world of blogging and what made you start a blog, firstly?
I sat here and I needed a way to kind of share my thoughts, I think. It was like a free therapy session for me. That's the whole reason why I thought, no one's going to read it. Who cares what I have to say? I'm just going to write down my words, post it. But I think I was so scared of writing my first blog. And I used my best friend, Google. And I went on there and I was like, how to start your blog? What should you write about? And obviously, a lot of people say, do what you know. So write about what you know. If you write about something you don't know, then you're going to be stuffed at the end of the day. Because if someone asks you a question and you're not disabled and you're writing about disability and you go, oh, I don't actually know, you're a bit stuck.
And you have to be interested in it as well, don't you? If you're not enjoying it, what's the point?
Absolutely. And I never thought I would love writing, in all fairness. I thought, no, it's great. I'm just going to put my words down, put my feelings down, share it. It's somewhere for me to go back and, for me to not completely freak out on my mental health, to not completely crash. I've wrote it down on, in black and white, and it's there for me to go back and read. So it started off mainly as being somewhere I could share my experience of having a disability and mental health, and being a free therapy session for me to get it all out. And it kind of just grew from that. And I still sit here now going, why do people read what I write about? I mean, it can't be that interesting, surely. But I love writing. I love writing about it. And I hope that I kind of want to put a bit of my sarcasm in at the same time. And I hope it comes across as that. I hope I don't sound like some 42-year-old blonde in a wheelchair groaning on about disability rights and how I deserve to have this, that, and the other. And do you know what? I fell off the edge of my bed the other day. So I hope it's kind of not like that, and people kind of read it and go, oh, do you know what? I actually understand where she's coming from.
Yeah, and I think
have a bit of, laughter in there at the same time.
That's the most important thing. It has to be relatable. Like, there's nothing worse than sitting and scrolling through a long old post that is just someone moaning at. And I think that's maybe where we're quite similar in our humour, that we're tackling important subjects and we're raising awareness, but we're also having a bit of tongue in cheek. There's a little bits of humour and sarcasm in there. And I think that's what makes it relatable, and that's probably why people do read your things and keep coming back. I think it's so important. And I know when I first started blogging, I used to watch a lot of YouTubers, and I love the idea of documenting your lifestyle, people filming their day, and then you've got that memory. And I never had the confidence to actually be on camera. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to start with a blog. If I can just write about what I'm up to in my day-to-day life and different experiences I've had, let's just start writing. And then as the years went on and the platform grew, the confidence grew, and then you start sharing more and raising more awareness. And I think you should be proud of what you've achieved already so far, just as much as I am.
Do you feel that your writing has changed over the years? I know when I started, I probably was very much stepping on eggshells because I didn't want to upset anyone. I didn't want to offend anyone. I didn't want to make anyone feel like I was force feeding them my disability. And then as the years have kind of gone on, I've kind of just gone, I really don't care what anyone thinks.
Yeah. I mean, I still get told off by my mum if I use a swear word. Like, she'll message me like, was there any need to put that word in there? I'm like, Mum, I'm 28. Like, come on.
That's brilliant. I love the fact is, I mean, I try not to swear because my mum has started reading my blogs recently. So I try very hard not to swear, but sometimes you have to.
Yeah, I think I learned probably the hard way because one of my first blog posts was quite controversial. I think I was maybe 2 or 3 blog posts in because I put I'm a perfectionist, and this is probably my downfall as well. I will plan everything to a T. I didn't want to be a one-hit wonder. So I'd worked on this behind the scenes for months, making sure I had plenty of content and things to make it regular. And yeah, I think it was one of my maybe 3rd or 4th blog posts was quite a controversial one because I was sharing a story about something that happened to me and my friends in a restaurant where we were at this Indian restaurant, and the staff were really quite rude to us in terms of our disability. They said some really nasty things, and I shared it on my blog because I thought this is the whole point of me sharing the good, the bad, the ugly of life with a disability. And that blog post received such a backlash. I thought, wow, what have I actually signed up for here? Because I was getting a lot of hate from supporters of this business, of this restaurant, people saying that I'm trying to ruin their reputation and things. Wow. I'm like, hang on, I'm just sharing my experience here. You know, so very early on in blogging, I think I learned the hard lesson. I'd switched my comments off because I couldn't actually handle the hate. I didn't like that at all. And I feel like that. I don't know if you've had many experiences with online hate when it comes to.
Yeah, I did a post. I called it my fanny MOT, and yeah, that got some real.
Can you just explain briefly what that's about?
So basically, accessing a smear test is very hard when you have a disability and you're female. And I also had a coil fitted. It had been 10 years since I'd had a smear test. So it came to the point of that I went to my local hospital, finally managed to get, someone to listen to me. And to basically cut a long story short, I had to go in for surgery. So when I went in, I wasn't expecting, when I went to the hospital, when I sat there with the gynecologist, I honestly thought she was going to say, right, okay, not a problem. We'll bring you in. We'll do a swab. We'll change your coil over. Job done. My husband was sat outside in the waiting room, and I came out, and I kind of felt very heartbroken. And I think for 10 years, I'd kind of ignored that there possibly could have been an issue. And when she turned around and said, well, your last one, obviously there was abnormalities. We're gonna have to bring you in. You're gonna have to, have an operation. I was like, what?
Mm.
What do you mean? And I did get very upset about it. But I also felt like I needed to share that experience because I'm not the only one out there who's female, who has, no access whatsoever to something that should be very accessible to us. And yeah, I called it my fanny MOT. My husband, when I did mention that was the name of the blog, my husband kind of was like, really? Really? Do you have to? And I'm like, yes, I kind of do. And the hate that I got from that, I mean, just one of the comments was, I don't think I could bring myself to read something that's subtitled and then did that. And I was just like, well, what do you know?
Exactly.
And, the hate that I got, I was wasting NHS money, what I was disabled, why was I having sex? I couldn't have sex because I was disabled. It's only a smear test. I should have just dealt with it.
God.
And just the hate that I got just from that one post. So I followed it on with another one. And I just thought, as much as you focus, and it is very easy to focus on that one hateful message.
Yes.
I mean, some of the hate has been a lot worse, where, I should have been aborted at birth. There was another one, something about I should have been dropped on my head and then I wouldn't have to go for a smear test. It's those ones where you fixate.
Yeah.
And as much as you get the hundreds and hundreds of messages from women saying, oh my God, I've been through the same thing. I can't believe that, I'm not on my own. But then there's always that one message, that one comment that you just constantly go back to because you don't understand why they feel the need to give you so much hate over something that is your life. It's your life. I've had to go through that. I had to go under. I had to have a tube down my throat. I had to wake up, not knowing if everything was fine. And I had to spend 24 hours in a high dependency ward because I'm unable to look after myself.
Yeah.
And you just think, where do you get that hate from to bring it to me? Surely you don't see that I'm trying to show people, don't leave it 10 years. Don't leave it 10. Push your GP to get what you need.
Exactly. And I think when it comes to when you were writing that post, in your head, you're raising awareness. And I think people don't often take on board that when you have a career in where it involves online and social media, there's always that risk of a backlash. Like, people do presume that, oh, well, if you've chosen this career path, you put your life out there and you share these intimate moments of your life, you're sort of subject to public comment, which on one hand, yes, I can see that, but never are you, is it acceptable to receive hate to that?
Absolutely. I will 100% take constructive criticism, and I have done. You give me constructive criticism, and the fact is that you've not liked the wording that I've done because it upsets you, because you have a disability, or there's other reasons for it. I'll take that on board. I'm happy to take what you say as a constructive criticism, but don't come and attack me.
No.
Because you think you have a right to. And I think I've now got to the point, I think, over the years where I started really watching what I was writing and kind of dumbing it down a little bit. And then I just thought, what are you doing? Kerry, sort yourself out. What are you doing? I was allowing them to take my truth and my words. And I think it's not as easy. I mean, I by far don't get as much hate as some, disability bloggers out there.
Yeah.
But you have to have a thick skin, I think.
Yeah.
Because you do. It's not like we've got out there and said, right, okay, we want to share our worlds. all haters come get us, because it's not. And I guarantee those haters that are hating on us, give them a wheelchair for a day, they won't be able to handle it.
Never survive. I think often people don't like the fact that when I share content, 90% of my content is positive, because I want to show people what we can do rather than what we can't, because there's already so much disability, negative stereotypes. And when it comes to blogging and career aspirations, I'm actually like, no, look what I've achieved, look what I've done. I think on my platform, on my journey, I have documented a lot of my media career, from doing bits of TV to doing a bit of radio presenting, and I would love to do a bit more, take that to the next level, of doing some more sort of presenting stuff. What is in your...
The next Jordan North.
Hey, that's the dream. What is your career aspirations like, whether it's blogging or your current job? Where do you see that going?
See, it's funny because every time somebody says that, I always say taking over the world.
Yeah. What more can you do?
What more can you do? I would love to see. I don't know, because do you know what? I'm riding this amazing path that I'm already on. And I'm loving every minute of it. And I think, every blog post I put out there, like you, I try and keep it as positive as I can, but also kind of reminding people that, it isn't as easy as people like to think it is. A lot of people think that we're getting everything handed to us on a plate. That's not the case. And unfortunately, we do go through situations where there is guilt, there is a burden feeling. And as much as we keep it very positive and say, well, you might tell us we can't put a door together, but we'll show you different.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't kind of know where I'd want it to go, because I didn't know it would get to this point when I first started. If you'd have asked me 6 years ago that I would have been shortlisted and going to, a black tie event in February for, the disability, the
National Diversity.
Yeah, that's the one. National Diversity Awards.
Yeah.
I'd turn around and gone, sorry, what? Winning the BBC, 3 counties for diversity and inclusion. That in itself, I was blown away when I won that. The same as winning, Campaigner of the Year for Muscular Dystrophy. Again, blown away. On the Shores Trust, someone asked me to be an ambassador. All these little things that have, a company asking me to share content for them and to be paid for it. I still pinch myself and go, why do they keep picking me for these things? And I'm like you, I'm a perfectionist, but I don't do what I do for the recognition. I love it. Keep it coming. I'm not saying don't stop giving it to me, because I'm saying keep,
Rain.
Make it rain. I love it. I love the fact is that I'm recognised for the work that I do, but I'm still surprised. I'm still very surprised when that email comes through or that letter comes through and says, Kerry, you've been nominated for. I'm like, what?
I think hopefully, even by just us having this conversation today, we're just two fish in a very big pond, but hopefully we can show and prove that actually, if you've got an interest in blogging or you've got an interest in the media or any type of career, you have to start somewhere. And regardless of your disability, it's doable. Yes, you might not take the most easiest and straightforward path towards that career, but doesn't mean you can't achieve it. There are ways around
Absolutely. If you put your mind to it, you can achieve whatever you want. It may take us a little bit longer to do things. It may take us, we can't just get out of our chair, pick up some car keys and jump in a car and drive off and go to work. It's not that easy for us. but we fully understand it's not that easy for us. But it doesn't mean that we're going to put that path, that brick wall up to say, right, that's it. Well, I'm not doing it.
No.
Because why would we want to? I kind of think that sometimes I feel like I just want to prove people wrong. I just kind of want to stick my middle finger up and go, guess what? Guess what I'm doing?
That makes it even, I totally agree. It makes you want to do it even more and prove people wrong. And I think, why not? I'm here for that. And just remind people at home, like, where they can find you. Like, I'm giving you a chance. Give us a plug now. What's your social media and your blog?
So my blog is called My Life's Kerry's Way. And you can find me on that. Just type it up, or you can type up my name, Kerry Thompson. And you can put Kerry Thompson changing places and an awful lot of stuff comes up. So I'm told. I haven't Googled myself. I haven't gotten that far yet. You can find me on Twitter again, Kerry Thompson. Come say hi. I love meeting new people. I love having people comment on my blogs and telling me their stories and, giving me constructive criticism, obviously. Yeah. Follow me on Instagram. Yeah, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much everywhere other than TikTok. Haven't made it to TikTok just yet.
You would be great on TikTok. We need to make that happen.
I am so bad at videos. You have no idea how bad. I am that bad that one of my PAs now has to write a script for me, hold it in front of the. So I thought it was I'm going to be so professional. I'm going to get myself a ring light. That will make me 100 times better. 100 times better at doing videos. Oh my God, no.
No.
Oh no, I have to literally have a script written for me. I have to write it. My PA writes it on a bit of paper, stands there underneath the ring light, and I have to read it.
Amazing.
It's just, I'm so bad. I get it in my head, and then as soon as that camera switches on, I'm like, what was I saying again?
Well, you cover it very well, because I think you've been very natural and professional today. So I think
that's because it's been scripted.
You turn the camera on. Have you got like paper all around you?
I'll do that one day. This is the life of what happens.
Well, you hide it well, and I just want to say thank you for being a guest today. You've been absolutely brilliant, and hopefully between us, anybody watching who's maybe got concerns over themselves finding employment because of their disability, like we said, hopefully we can sort of encourage and actually say you can do it. Like, there is ways around it, and if you want a career in blogging, or if you want to contact Kerry or myself, our emails and social media are always open. So
yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much for having me.
Anytime. Thank you, Kerry. And to anybody who's watching today, thank you. We really hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you soon for another Living with SMA podcast again soon. Take care.
You've been listening to the Living with SMA podcast. We hope you can join us again next time, but in the meantime, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. You can find out more on our website at smauk.org.uk.